everyone. This is Greg Aden with Aden Leadership, and I appreciate you tuning in for another episode of Servant Leadership Podcast. Today, I have a very special woman with me today. I believe you'll enjoy her as much as I did when we first met. Ladies and gentlemen, people around the world, I want to introduce you to Chinasa Imo. Chinasa, how are you today?
I'm fine, thank you, Greg, and I'm happy to be here with you to discuss
Good.
whatever you want us to discuss.
Yeah. Well,
Thanks for having me.
I, I already see why I enjoyed our conversation last time. I love your beautiful smile and the love you have in your eyes, and yeah, I mean, just keep coming with that. It's beautiful.
Thank you
Let-
very much.
oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. I'm just reflecting what I see. I'm going to ask just real quickly, where are you from originally, and how did you end up where you are today?
Thank you for that question. I am originally from Abia State, in Nigeria, West Africa. I'm currently staying in Chicago. I came for my graduate program, master's degree in international development policy. And then after graduation, I stayed a little bit to try to get into a PhD program, which I have successfully done and will be starting this fall at the University of Chicago.
Beautiful. I know the first time we chatted, I had asked why Chicago. I mean, lots of great cities to me. It is the New York of the Midwest. It's got so much going on there. But I'd like for you to tell our listeners why did you pick the Windy City, Chicago, Illinois?
Who doesn't like a very beautiful towny kind of city where everything is well mapped out? For me, Chicago resonated, some familiarity with my African history. So it's a town that has a whole diversity of people, mostly Black and colored people of colors, living and, working here. So, when you come out in the morning, you see familiar faces. But it also had, I would say, some of the challenges that I saw in Nigeria and in, West Africa, generally where I've worked in. We talk about gun violence, we talk about, insecurity, we just talk about, people talk about diversity and inclusion, but how are we really diversely including ourselves in a city where everyone lives together, but sometimes don't talk to each other? So things like that intrigued me to come to Chicago just to kind of like study. I told you the last time that I'm a behavioral scientist. I like to study humans, why humans behave the way they behave, and what motivates them around, decisions they take. So Chicago encompassed all that for me. And plus, University of Chicago is a premier school.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I'm gonna divert here for a second because I love the fact that you're studying behavior. And as a leadership coach, I study behavior all the time, and I believe our behaviors start with our beliefs, then we manifest words, we communicate a certain way, and then we behave a certain way. And diversity and inclusion, not our topic today. We're going to talk mainly on women in leadership and empowering more women to be in leadership and empower women that are in leadership to be even better leaders. But before we go there, I just want to pick your heart here and say, why do you believe it's so hard with I know there's diversity, but I believe one of the harder questions is, why are we so reluctant to include others? Or why are we fearful of asking to be included with others? What do you say to that, Chinasa?
I think I'll start from the fear of the unknown. If I don't know you that well, even though I want to be, friendly with you, I still don't want to include it that much in my life. I mean, it's just like a universal principle. Until you know someone that much, you will not be familiar with the person. But I wonder, the positioning of, diversity and inclusion, just putting those two, different words together, what it really means when we talk about diverse and then inclusion. I understand that cities and, economies are trying to frame themselves along the line that whatever whatever is your interest, whatever identity you want to be identified with,
Sure.
whatever culture, religion, tradition that you practice, whatever is your flair in life, like we can all exist in a common space, cordially and respectfully together. But my question is, how much are we ready to adapt to those diversities
Hmm.
to the point where it doesn't bother us anymore? Like, I'm a Black person. I come into an environment filled with white people, and I don't have the fear that, oh, this person might become uncomfortable because I'm there, or these people might not converse with me. And this also has to do with mind conditioning, you
Yep.
understand? Not just from the perceived person, but even the person that is giving it out. I want to perceive some level of insecurity when I go to people that are not within my circles.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing that is making me separate myself from that person, that is also making that person not come to me as well. So until we figure out how to really include ourselves in an environment, diversities will still be existing.
Yeah, I love it. And that's going on it's going on right now in millions and millions of places around the world. And I love what you said about it's based in fear and of the unknown. And I will tell you a secret that I recognize about myself over the past few years is I don't see the skin color as much as I see their eyes, as
Mhm.
much as I see their willingness to smile or the desire to smile. And to me, again, regardless of race and background, and I don't know what's going on in their day, none of my business. But for me to be inclusive, I need to be looking up and I need to be aware of where I am and tell myself, I'm going to smile at this person because I can see there have smile. Now, I'm not weird. I just smile back. And sometimes this happens and it's really weird and we might try it more often. How's your day? Now, the worst thing that can happen is they can say, none of your bleeping business, right?
Yeah.
But again, I'm saying that to someone I've caught eye with, and I see a potential smile behind their eyes. But the best thing they could do is say, fine, thank you for asking. Or my day's good. How's yours? And I'm not saying we need to sit and chit chat, but I'm just talking about walking by someone in a grocery store, or seeing someone filling up their gas at the same time you are. And so include ourselves in a appropriate manner. And I guarantee you, Chinasa, we would have more inclusion. Now, I'm not an expert on diversity. Some would look at this tape and say, well, of course not. Look at you. Well, you know what? I am diverse. I'm just not as diverse in some ways. But anyway, let's move on to our topic with a lot of meaning. As some of the listeners may know, we just finished Leadership Development Series Part 1. It was filled with women in leadership and the vision of young and emerging leaders. And I want to pick your brain and get inside your heart, Chinasa, is how do you believe women could show up differently so there's more in leadership? That's part one. And part two, I want to really wrap our arms around this idea of empowering women to be in leadership and to be better leaders. So take it away.
I think the first one is opening access for women, to have the proper training, mentorship, education around, taking up responsibility and being accountable for the actions that they take. Sometimes when we talk about women leadership, women empowerment, and all whatnot, the question that I ask is: are the women having access? Do they have the motivation to? You understand? I was talking about, having access to, leadership trainings, mentorship, and, capacities that will make them come up to the qualities that they will need to take on those leadership roles. I think that's the basic, that's the first thing. It's not just about saying, we need parity, we need women to move into these spaces, but do they have the requisite qualities? Do they have the capacity to take on those positions? And that is where like for especially women who have broken those glasses,
Yeah.
who have been able to move up the ladder, move up the chain, and they have experiences to how they got there.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? This is where they can now come in to say, oh, this is what you need to do. This is how you need to get to this space. And these are things that you need to be able to have the capacity to favorably compete in that space that you are. Leadership come in different forms. So it could be a group or community leadership.
Yeah.
But they are high skilled leadership positions, like taking, official positions in a workplace. That will not come with asking for 50-50. It comes with your capacity. It comes with your education, your qualifications, your skills that you possess that make you a competitive candidate. And you have to intentionally acquire those skills in order to take on that position. Nobody will hand them to you just because you are a woman and men are occupying that space.
Sure.
So I think the very first granular thing that we need to do is begin to create empowerment programs that put women in that position where they know where they want to go to, know the career space they want to, immerse themselves, acquire the requisite skills and capacities that is required for that particular kind of space, and then move in. That is where you can now maybe lead the person to move into the position, but the person has to have the capacity to do that.
Well, I want to, first of all, thank you. This is one of the cleanest explanations of how do we get more women in leadership, period. Again, you can't just move people out and move people in, move men out, move in women. We have to have the capacity. They have to have the capacity. But you also said access. And beyond that, what I heard you say, Chinasa, is there are women that have broke the glass ceiling. And there are women that are in leadership and they're doing very well. So I believe if they would speak to the younger, the not so capacity, the ones that don't have the capacity yet, or the knowledge, frankly, and maybe it's a skill in the education. I believe if we would ask them to take a little bit of their time and say, hey, your your path is not going to be like mine, but here's what I did. Here's how I prepared myself. And here's how I sought access. And when it was there, this is how I walked through that door or those doors. I know it's not easy, but we need leaders that are already leaders to help lead people who want to be leaders. And I also believe that some people say we deserve to have more women in leadership. Can't disagree that the numbers are way out of balance. But instead of saying the deserving, let's just provide the access and exactly. Then see what happens. Because I believe those that are really interested and committed to leading will end up leading if that's what they want. But if they sit there and wait for someone to say, hey, we need to get our numbers right, would you like to be a leader? I don't believe that's good for them. I don't believe that's good for the organization. And frankly, I don't think that's good for women in general. But that's just my 2 cents. I love the way you said capacity and access. So how do we help some of the leaders that are women, that they're ready to lead, they've proven themselves? How do we get companies to say, let's expand our leadership, or let's make some programs available so they can lead them? It might not be a traditional leadership, but at least see how they perform in a leadership role.
Yeah, thank you for this question. And it was just going in my mind, a conversation I had with a friend lately when we were talking about, in Nigeria, we are in the era of election and people are picking forms. And, we look at the candidates who identifying their interests to vie for election, and none of them so far are women. And my friend, she does, election transformation policies and, stuff like that, and governance policies. And we were talking, and I asked her a question. I'm like, sometimes we burden organizations to open up spaces for women. Have we asked the women if they are interested to move into that space? For instance, politics. We have women who have far more capacities to be good leaders, good political leaders, but they don't have the interest.
Right.
So how do you now, bring those people into that space? I think that is the question that you're asking.
Yeah.
And this is where, we talked about mentorship. This is where mentorship comes in. And mentorship is not just about gender. I see mentorship as, gender neutrality. A man can be your mentor. A woman can be your mentor, as long as the person, is in the space that you're interested in. For instance, if you want to be in politics, you might not know how to navigate the terrain other than interest. Some people have interest, they just don't know where to, go to. This is where you can reach out and say, oh, you've been in politics for a long time. I need you to mentor me to come into this space because I need someone who is well knowledge around this area to guide me. Then another part is also about, having support group, women coming together to form support group or support system where they can, within themselves, identify the areas they need to support each other to thrive. For instance, I'm seeing, the gravitation of women towards certain career these days. Like I am part of, women in global health. Yeah. Because I am interested in global health. So I move towards that space and I'm joining women there, and I'm seeing older people who have been in the profession for 20 years, 25 years, 15 years, 10 years, even like early career boomers who are there doing well. Yeah. So just being in that space has opened up a whole lot of networking and opportunities for me to get indirect mentorship. For instance, just looking at how far someone is going, I can motivate myself to go, to push myself to go higher. Yeah. You understand? Or I can come to you and say, adopt me as your mentee because I'm interested in going all the way to the height you've achieved. So those are things that we need to do other than like, the legal framework where you make organizations to adopt, gender sensitive norms and policies within their organizational structures and framework. These are things that I feel that will go far more better, if we have these support systems where women can use to, climb up gradually into the leadership position.
So what would you say? Let's pretend we've got 50 young women in front of us. Some of them have graduated from college. Some of them are in grad school, and the other third are out of school altogether. And they're looking for a position in leadership or an opportunity to lead others. The title doesn't matter. Don't get me started on titles. I don't believe titles tell the world exactly how you lead. It just says what you do, and in some cases, that's even a fallacy. But so anyway, to your valuable group that you're now speaking to, what would you say to these young women who have education, as you say, a desire to lead, and they've been mentored perhaps, or they're seeking mentorship? What would you say to them? You have a few minutes right now to share. What does your heart say?
The first question that I ask everyone that come to me and say, oh, I want to join your mentorship program. The question I ask you is, where do you want to be in the next 10 years? Because that will show me what your mindset, not necessarily in terms of position or in terms of, the career space you want to head towards, but just being able to, go into your headspace and understand what you are thinking within the next 10 years that you could do. The conversation starts from there. If I know where you want to head to, then we can now find different ways that you can get there. There are short form, there are longer ways, and there are nuances that may most likely, distract you or help you to get there faster. But if we know where your direction is going to, we can now begin to fashion out the best possible, way for you to get there. This will mean, what are the characters that you have that will help, that are like strength for you? What are the characters that you have that are threats towards those your goal that you need to work on? What are the skills that you need to acquire additionally to get there? If it has to do with education or certification, what would that most likely look like based on where you're heading? And then if it has to do with time management, how do you need to be generous or stingy with your personal time in order for you to stay focused to get to where you are going? So those are the things that comes after. Who do you need to talk to? Who do I need to connect to? Because it's not everyone that come to me for mentorship that I have all the answers for. Right. So when I know what your focus is going to be in the next 10 years, I might be providing general mentorship for you, like come and ask me, who can troubleshoot issues and stuff like that. But I have someone within my network that I can directly connect you to, because that person might be more useful to you. But we have to start with the basic question: what is your goal? What are you looking to achieve?
I love that. And I loved your question about where do you want to be? And that could be a location. It could be a position. It could be exactly. An opportunity. So the where is a destination, and 10 years seems like a long time when you're 23 or 24, but all of a sudden you're 33. And the question would be, am I where I wanted to be? And I also love your question about, what are your characteristics? What are your strengths? What things do you do well? And oh, by the way, I would ask the other side of the coin too. What are some of the things you know right now, regardless of leadership position, can you improve, and why, and how would that help you? And then the other question is asking them, regardless of age, what skills do you know then, or you believe very firmly you need to acquire in order to get where you say you want to go? And then by you having all these beautiful questions asked, then you can connect them to the right people, is what I heard you say.
Yes.
I'm assuming your network is hundreds, but as you ask the questions, our network gets smaller and smaller, and say, okay, I have 3 people I recommend that you connect. But if you're listening, young women, notice she didn't say she's going to snap her fingers and point to a position that needs a leader with very few skills and don't have the characteristics to succeed. So you didn't say it, but I want to bring into the conversation before we wrap up is, you're also saying, without saying it, you need to be patient.
Exactly.
It's not going to happen overnight. And I would ask, within those 10 years, where do you want to be in 3? Where do you want to be in 5? Because if you don't get somewhere in 3, you won't get there in 5, and certainly won't be there at 10. So you occur to me, Chinasa, as someone that has had a lot of great mentors in their life, and maybe some bad leaders and mad managers, etc. But take a minute and share with the audience, who have some of your mentors be? Feel free to share them by name if you wish. If not, that's fine. Maybe general time of your life when you were introduced to these mentors. But I want the listeners to hear, well, what kind of mentors did Chinasa have, and how did she find her mentors? Go ahead.
I like this question because sometimes, people will just be like, oh, this person, figurative person, is my mentor. And that is why I get to where I am. So I grew up in a space and time. It doesn't necessarily mean like it's old time, but I grew up in a space and time where women, I think I've shared this with you. Like I said, I'm from the eastern part of Nigeria. So women are just groomed enough to know the minimal to go into marriage and start rearing children. And fortunately, I had a teacher as a mom. So she was my first mentor. I had a teacher as a mom, and she was quite an advocate for girl child empowerment. Right. Against all odds, She made sure that me and my younger sister, we were in school, even with our meager salary. She was, prioritizing paying our tuition and all that. And then she got ill, suffered preventable illness
Yeah.
for a period of time and got complications, and she died. We were quite young. So now her death also is an event that puts me in the space that I'm working in right now. And some people come and ask me, but you don't have public health degree and you've never tried to acquire one, but you're always talking passionately about, improving access to healthcare and stuff. I'm like, it's personal experience, because
Yeah.
my role model, who was my mentor, had this, and they all happen in my face, and I know what that could mean, you understand, for every woman and child in that situation. So that environment was the first kind of experience, and her was the first mentor that I had.
Yeah.
But being determined and trying to grow up and get out of that patriarchal system of men, having the final decision over your life, I had to struggle with disagreeing with a lot of norms, a lot of customs, a lot of opinions. Like, someone tells me you are opinionated, I'm like, yes, because I pursued knowledge in order to know what works best for me. You understand? So within those periods, I begin to identify people, not necessarily go close to them, because as at that time, I didn't know how to have access to them, but I followed their life. So I got in touch with media quite early in life. I read newspapers, I, read books that people have written, you understand? And then I follow people's activity. Like, I'll wake up in the morning, have my bath, and go to someone's event just because I want to hear them talk.
Right.
I listen a lot to TED. And that was just at the time TED Talk was, booming.
Sure.
Every morning I have to plug in and hear from everyone. But recently in my life, I've had strong women who, for whatever reasons, have gone through these processes, and I see them in high places. You understand? And I personally went and identified my friendship with them, not really saying, come and be my mentor, but, being close to them, I have to understudy them. And some of those names I will call. One of them, obviously, is Fola Richard Dewusi. She's from Ekiti. She was my boss one time in life. And just seeing, the way the woman is detailed and principled in her work is something that I took from her.
Good.
I have, other people. Someone like Edwin Ikuria is the director of One Campaign. He's a die-hard advocate for issues that are pertinent to him. So someone like that, he became my mentor, not necessarily because I asked him to, but I followed his life. I followed his critical line of reasoning. I followed the way he matched every data to scenarios and situations to drive, an argument towards the things that he is passionate about. And then within the academic space, I also had my professors who, I kind of liked. And then, like you said, mention you. Now I'm mentioning you because I met you and I read about you. I'm like, yes, I really need to, be in his space. That's how I adopted my mentors so far. But for me, I knew that was a long struggle to being mentored. So I intentionally began mentorship program to say, okay, now this is my experiences and struggles to, getting to where I am now. But here I am with all these experiences. You can actually come to me directly and tap from. So every now and then I'm like, okay, come, please. Do you want mentorship? We can walk through, your processes together and get you to where you want to be.
Beautiful. I tell you, the mention of your mother, I've said this for the past several years, that I believe that parenting is so critical to development of leaders, because they are our first leaders that we don't idolize, but we certainly watch, we listen, and some of our parents aren't very good. Some of our parenting in the United States of America absolutely sucks. And that's some of the reasons we have some of the issues we have in what we call a great country. leaders, as parents, we failed miserably. But to hear that she was talking to you at a young, speaking with you at a young age about girl child empowerment. Think about that. How crucial that was in your country. And maybe we need to do a little bit better as parents here. Men, are you listening? How are you speaking to your daughters at an early age that gives them not just the hope, but the direction to be leaders? And moms, if you're not a leader, you're just a mom, that's fine. But be a good role model. I also heard that you don't necessarily need an official title to be a mentor, and you don't need to have a mentor who has a title, a mentor to follow somebody. Chinasa, you were so curious. You were watching people do what they do so you could emulate their better habits. That doesn't take a mentor-mentee relationship. That takes you wanting to get better at who you say you want to be. So again, we can sit there and wait. We can sit there and look on our phone until mom or dad brings us something to read, or we can just get flippin' curious. We can just spend more time developing ourselves. Boys, girls, they, he, she, what are you really doing to make your mind better? You said you pursued knowledge. That doesn't mean you sat in a classroom and waited to be spoken to. You pursued tape, book, learnings all over the place. So if you're really listening to this podcast, Chinasa is making it perfectly clear that you own your ability, you own your potential, you own your great chance to become a leader. But you've got to do something. You've got to work hard. And I'm staring at a woman that has worked her butt off to get where she is today. And you do it with a smile. I bet you have a few bad days every once in a while. But my heart tells me that you go through life knowing how difficult it was for you. You sweated, you worked, you continue to study. But you're an example of what women who want to be leaders should look at and say, how the heck did she get there? Well, I don't even know where you are. But I know one thing for certain. I know where you're going. And a lot of people are going to be following you, listening to you, your books on tape, your podcast, things you have to say. And you're just a breath of fresh air. You're more than a breath of fresh air.
Thank you.
You're a great example, Chinasa Imo.
Thank you.
And it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. I hope thousands and thousands of people watch this and they listen as to and the title of this is going to be Empowering Women in Leadership. And anything you'd like to say as we close up?
Yes. Thank you very much for having me in this podcast session.
You bet.
And I'm going to ask that as you've opened your space to have me without even asking you to be my mentor, I would also be drawing people to you, because I believe that, baseline, I mentor people to get to a space, but they need to go higher.
Yeah.
And for them to do that, they need, to get more experienced leadership mentors. So I am Oliver Twist. So I'm going to be asking that from you as well, to open your, space to mentor some of my mentees, so that they get to that standard way wherever they walk into. They are seen as people who have the capacity to deliver best practices in whatever space that they find themselves.
Well, I would love to. Many people that you recommended attend the Leadership Development Series, Part 1. All of a sudden, we're getting all sorts of people that I know that we're connected to you signing up. So thank you for that. And we can get that entire group together on Zoom and ask and answer and discuss anything you want to, anytime you want. Just let me know. But in conclusion, it's actually inclusion is what I wanted to talk about. And you just said it. Include yourself. Include yourself into the opportunities that you want. Ask for access. Make sure that you have what it takes to take the first step. You can't take the second or third until you make the first one. So make that one important. Seek advice, seek mentors, and pursue knowledge. I just love what you said there. And so again, Chinasa Imo, thank you so much for
Thank
being my
you.
guest today. I really appreciate it. And all I say for those listening, I wrapped it up already, but thank you for being here. Thank you for enjoying another episode of your Servant Leadership Podcast with Chinasa Imo. And we're going to call this one Empowering Women in Leadership. Empowering you to do something that you really want to do that will help you get to where you say you want to go. And if it's leadership, let's get you there. I'm willing and able to help. 469-879-8211. Anytime you want to have a conversation, I'll be willing to have it. And Janasa, I hope you put together a nice large group. We can have a group chat and find out some of the secrets and share some of the ones we do know. So again, thank you. Again, this is
Thank you,
Greg Aden with
Aden.
Aden Leadership. We appreciate you chiming in, and go out and have a great day. God bless.
Thank you.